Our fascination with dragons, they are magnificent creatures, bold, brave, beautiful, and when they roar, it is with this ferocious howl that shakes the earth to the core. When their eyes seek you, they truly do see to the pit of your soul. And when they breathe, the cold wraps around you and freezes you in time. Water has always been my favorite pastime. I love bodies of water, yet I don't always swim. I just like being there beside it, listening to it, letting the water brush up against the sand and my feet. And my heart has always told me that something is always in there, waiting for me. So I barely swim in waters. And even if I were to go there, I don't go too deep because I feel as if I'm always being watched. Sometimes I feel as if I'm being lured or even seduced. As a child, I avoided it because I was scared. I had an almost drowning experience when I was very young. We were at a campsite for the summer. My cousins had swum out to the deeper part of the river, and I had a life jacket on, but I wasn't experienced. I wasn't an experienced swimmer. And I remember that everybody was on this kind of like paddle thing, this board that was in the middle of the river. And we were going to come back to shore. And I slipped off. I slipped off and I fell and I went underwater. To my cousins, they said that it was like a brief 4 or 5 seconds. But to me, it felt like 4 or 5 hours. When I went under, everything just went silent. It was complete, dark, cold silence, and I felt this chill that just wrapped around me. I felt as if something was pulling me, yanking me, and then I saw this bright light that pulled me out of the water. And as I was pulled out of the water, I heard my cousin's voice say to me, "Oh, 个有了多少?" And it just frightened me. And everybody else was really afraid too. Nobody talked about it. Nobody even told any of the elders what had happened. I didn't tell either. And so I just sort of pushed that in the back of my mind. And I know that that moment still triggers me at times. And so when I'm in the water, I often do think back to that. When my awakening began, I dreamt a lot about bodies of water, and I was thrown in the water to train. I remembered gasping for air, clawing my way through the mess of sunken treasures to get to the top, only to find I'm being dragged down by dragon-like claws. And I'd wake up exhausted and drained and fogged, and my mind was just barely there. Anger would hang around me like a dark cloud, and everything anyone said would trigger me to snap at them. My husband would come home from work and he would ask, "How was your day, honey?" And my reply was, "It's the same dang old thing. Why must you always ask me?" And I mean, when I think about it now, it's like I was so mean. I was so mean. I was so cruel. But I didn't know what was going on in my head. Everything just felt so thick with exhaustion. And it was so crowded and it was loud and chaotic. And my energy felt like it was pins and needles flying through the pores of my skin. I didn't know how to control any of it. When I accepted my journey, the training in my underwater world was something that I longed for because number one, it was a trigger that I had to overcome. It was a healing that I needed to overcome. And it was only then and there that I began to understand that at that moment when I thought I was drowning, that bright light that I saw was my spiritual guides helping me to get out of that water. It was then and there that I remember the fear just subsided. And when I think about it, the ancestral roots of me, I was always welcomed with open arms in the water. And when I first descended to the world where I came from, where I was born, my past life, everything, I was so emotional. I was crying, I was shaking, and this happened during a trance where I was sitting on my bench and my husband was sitting beside me. And as I crossed over, the vibrations in me started to shake even harder. and I felt this cold air just sweep over me. And then this heavy breath came from my lips, and an echo of this throaty laugh bounced out of me, and it was deep and dark, and it was like 4 octaves lower than how I normally sounded. And I remember that it was just so rich, the voice. And what it said to me was, and that's what it said. And then it was just this beautiful world that presented itself to me. And let me tell you, the world is extremely rich and gold and beautiful. And I think that's why so many people are fascinated with it, because of this legend that dragon people are absolutely beautiful, and it's real. The dragon folks are downright freaking gorgeous. Their skin is succulent like that of a ripe peach, and their hair is long and flowy, and not one single split end is in sight, and their clothes is just hanfu in white and miles of peach blossoms with everything painted in gold, and I didn't want to leave. And this was going back into my roots from way back when, of another lifetime that my guides were showing me, and it made me super emotional, and I was just crying underneath my veil. And I met the mother and the brother who welcomed me with open arms, and then she started singing to me in this Gutsia form. Mi leng nia tu mi leng cai leng nia tao lu tia tao chua bua tao lu mi du chi tao lo. And it made me sob endlessly, and my heart was just thundering, and then everything went white. And then this loud buzzing sound appeared, and I stopped shaking, and I see these two strong hands, like strong hands, hands I've known all my life, reach for the instrumental qing, and the song begins to play, and I hear it, and I know who it is. Tua nu zeng, tua nu zeng, zi yo qua, zi yo klia. And my father's song plays from my lips as he brings me back to reality and away from a world where I used to know from my past life. And as I retrace my steps back out of the golden world of dragons and out of the cold of the waves of water, and I breathe back life into my body, and I'm repeating after my father. 我这家天这瓜，我这家天这年. And then I find myself reaching the earth of the living, where I'm surrounded by my spiritual guides, each one flying swiftly around me, gathering up my tools, my gong, my sword, my bells, the hem of everything that I wear. And as they are helping me hide my footprints, I softly whisper, 只有我，只有我。